They say grief changes you, but no one tells you the worst part. The worst part isn't the crying, it's the forgetting. Forgetting what your husband's laugh sounded like. Forgetting who you were before you became a widow. Forgetting that your own children might be suffocating right beside you while you're too busy surviving to notice. My name is Victoria Sterling. I built a $47 billion empire. I can negotiate with world leaders without flinching. I can fire a room full of executives and sleep soundly that night, but I cannot make my own daughters look at me without fear in their eyes. And then one ordinary Tuesday, I came home early and heard something that made me question everything I thought I knew about love, about healing, and about the stranger who somehow understood my children better than I ever did. The bathroom lights were off. Victoria Sterling sat on the cold tile floor of her corner office bathroom, door locked, blinds drawn, the muffled sounds of Manhattan 40 stories below. At 44 years old, she had spent the last 3 years running. Running from grief, running from guilt, running from the silence that waited for her at home like a patient predator. Her reflection in the mirror showed someone she barely recognized. The gray at her temples she'd stopped hiding, the lines around her eyes that her PR team digitally erased from every press photo, the tremor in her hands that started 6 months after Michael's funeral and never stopped. Her phone buzzed against the marble sink. Her assistant, frantic as always. The Zurich call in 5 minutes. Investors are nervous about the quarterly guidance. Victoria turned off the phone. Since the funeral, work had been her oxygen, board meetings, acquisitions, crisis management. As long as she kept moving, she didn't have to feel. As long as she kept building, she didn't have to grieve. But lately, even the empire felt hollow. She was 44, her daughters were 5, and somewhere between earnings calls and investor dinners, she'd lost the ability to feel anything at all. She whispered to her reflection in the dark, "Who are you anymore?" No answer came. The Sterling estate in Westchester was 18,000 square feet of museum-quality silence. Victoria had decided to go home early, something she hadn't done in months. She didn't call ahead. She didn't want the staff scrambling to present a polished version of chaos. She wanted to see her home as it really was. She entered through the service door, removed her heels to walk silently across the marble floors. The house held its breath around her. Shadows stretched long through empty hallways. The grandfather clock in the foyer had stopped working the night Michael died, and she'd never bothered to fix it. Some things shouldn't keep marking time when time has stopped mattering. Her 4 daughters, Sophie, Mia, Grace, and Chloe, they were 2 years old when they lost their father. Precocious talkers back then, babbling in their invented language, shrieking with joy at the smallest discoveries. After Michael's helicopter went down, that music stopped. Not completely mute. They could say single words when necessary, yes, no, hungry, tired. But the endless questions, the chaotic symphony of 4 toddlers discovering the world together, gone. Replaced by watchful eyes and careful movements, as if they were afraid that making too much noise might cause another disaster. Victoria had tried everything: speech therapists, play therapists, art therapists, a specialist from Switzerland who charged $800 an hour and accomplished nothing. Give them time, the experts said. They're processing grief in their own way. 3 years of time, 3 years of silence, 3 years of Victoria pouring herself into work because, at least there, she could fix things. She walked through the house now, listening for signs of life. And then she heard it. Laughter, not polite sounds, not restrained giggles. Real laughter, bright, bubbling, unrestrained. 4 voices tangled together in pure, reckless joy. Victoria's heart stopped. That can't be right. They don't laugh. They haven't laughed since Michael died. She moved toward the sound, pulse pounding, mind racing through possibilities. A visitor? A new therapist she'd forgotten about? Something wrong? She reached the doorway of the playroom, and she froze. A man knelt on the rug in the center of the room. Nathan Brooks, the janitor hired 8 months ago. He had a makeshift harness of play rope looped around his waist. Sophie and Mia bounced on his back like he was a gentle giant. Grace and Chloe tugged the rope from the other side, shrieking commands like tiny generals. Captain Nathan reporting for duty, he announced in a mock-serious voice, but gentle with the old guy. I only have one spine and it's older than your mom's fancy car. The girls howled with laughter. You're not old, Sophie protested. I'm ancient, Nathan replied dramatically. I remember when dinosaurs walked the earth. I had a pet T-Rex named Gerald. No, you didn't, Chloe squealed. You're right. His name was Susan. More laughter, louder, fuller. The sound Victoria had been desperate to hear since the night everything changed. And it wasn't for her. She watched Nathan lift little Grace onto his shoulders with practiced ease. Grace, who flinched when Victoria tried to hold her hand, who pulled away from hugs like they burned. That same Grace buried her face in Nathan's hair and giggled. Something cracked inside Victoria's chest. Not just surprise, something older, deeper, jealousy, followed immediately by shame. What kind of mother is jealous that her traumatized children finally found someone who makes them happy? Nathan looked up. Their eyes met. His smile faded. The rope slipped from his hand. 4 pairs of tiny eyes turned toward the doorway. The laughter stopped, and Victoria Sterling, who commanded boardrooms without flinching, had no idea what to say. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat in her home office staring at Nathan Brooks' employee file, 6 pages, high school diploma, custodial certifications, references from a hospital in Ohio, a school in Pennsylvania, a church in New Jersey, jobs that required showing up, keeping quiet, and disappearing into the background. But there was a 2-year gap, 2019 to 2021, no employment, no explanation. She pulled up security footage from the past months. Nathan playing with the girls in the garden. Nathan reading to them in the library. Nathan sitting quietly while they colored, not pushing, not demanding, just present. In every frame, her daughters were different people, animated, alive, reaching toward him instead of pulling away. Her phone buzzed. A text from Diane Morrison, her oldest friend. You okay? You left the office early. Your assistant said you look sick. Victoria typed back slowly. I think I've been sick for 3 years. I just didn't notice until today. Later that night, Victoria wandered downstairs. She heard something from the maintenance room at the end of the hall. A man's voice, Nathan's voice, soft, broken, speaking to someone who wasn't there. Good night, Rose. Daddy's here. Sleep well, sweetheart. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry. Victoria pressed her hand to her mouth. Through the crack in the door, she could see him, sitting alone on a wooden stool, holding a tiny pink clock, worn around the edges, a cartoon heart sticker half peeled. Or he pressed it to his forehead like a prayer. Victoria stepped back slowly, heart pounding in her chest. Who is Rose? And what is this man hiding? It took Victoria 3 hours and a private investigator to find the truth. Nathan Brooks, age 41, former construction foreman in Columbus, Ohio. Married to Sarah Brooks from 2015 to 2021. One daughter, Rose Elizabeth Brooks, born March 2017, died November 2020. Cause of death, congenital heart defect, sudden cardiac arrest, age 4. Victoria stared at the photograph attached to the obituary, a little girl with curly brown hair in her father's eyes, smiling at the camera while clutching a stuffed elephant. 4 years old, the same age Sophie, Mia, Grace, and Chloe were when Michael died. She found Nathan in the garden the next morning. He was pruning rose bushes that didn't need pruning, moving with the careful slowness of someone who didn't want to think too hard about what his hands were doing. I know about Rose. He froze, didn't turn around. I had to know who was spending time with my daughters. Silence stretched between them. I figured you'd find out eventually, he said. Why didn't you tell me? Nathan set down the pruning shears. When he finally faced her, his eyes were red-rimmed. Because I didn't want you to look at me the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm either a tragedy or a threat. Victoria stepped closer. I don't think you're either. Then what do you think I am? She considered the question carefully. I think you're the first person who's reached my daughters in 3 years, and I don't understand how or why, and it terrifies me. They sat on the garden bench together, the same bench where Michael had proposed 15 years ago. Nathan told her everything. Rose was sick from birth. We knew she might not live long, but you tell yourself stories. You believe in miracles, and for 4 years, she was our miracle. He pulled out the pink clock, worn edges, half-peeled heart sticker. This was her bedtime clock. Every night at 7 it chimed. Story time. She'd climb into my lap with whatever book she was obsessed with that week, usually something about elephants. She loved elephants. Victoria thought of her own daughters and their stuffed animals. Sophie's bunny, Mia's elephant, Grace's bear, Chloe's giraffe. The night she died, I was supposed to be home early. I promised I'd read her favorite book, Ellie's Magic Trunk, but my foreman asked me to stay late. Just 2 hours. We needed the overtime. His voice cracked. By the time I got home, the ambulance was already there. Sarah was screaming on the lawn. The paramedics told me they tried everything, but Rose was already gone. Victoria's eyes stung with tears she hadn't expected. My husband died rushing home, she whispered. He was supposed to be in Chicago for a meeting, but the girls asked him to come back for bedtime. I told him no. It was too late, too dangerous. He went anyway. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her. So we both lost someone because of bedtime. Yes. And we both blame ourselves. Yes. The silence between them shifted. It was no longer uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who had learned to speak the same language of loss. After Rose died, Nathan continued. Sarah couldn't look at me. Every time she saw my face, she saw the man who chose work over his daughter's last night alive. The marriage ended. I stopped working construction. I couldn't build things anymore. I only wanted to disappear into things. Clean floors, empty rooms, places where no one expected me to feel anything. And then you came here. And then I came here. He managed a small smile. Your daughters remind me of Rose. Not their faces, just their watchfulness. That careful way traumatized kids move, like they're waiting for the next disaster. I recognized it, and I couldn't walk past it. Victoria wiped her eyes. You've done more for them in 8 months than I've done in all that time since Michael died. That's not true. It feels true. Nathan shook his head. They talk about you constantly. Mommy's favorite color, Mommy's office, Mommy's shoes that click. They're not distant because they don't love you. They're distant because they're trying to protect you. Victoria frowned. Protect me from what? From their grief. They know you're sad. Kids always know. And they think if they're quiet enough, careful enough, they won't make it worse. The words hit Victoria like a wave. She'd spent 3 years trying to protect her daughters from her own grief, and they'd been doing the exact same thing. We've all been suffocating in the same silence, thinking we were the only ones gasping for air. That weekend, Victoria met Diane Morrison for brunch at their usual spot in the village. Diane was 62 years old, twice divorced, magnificently blunt, and the only person in Victoria's life who still called her by her first name instead of Ms. Sterling. They'd met at a grief support group 2 years ago. Victoria had attended exactly one session before deciding she didn't have time for feelings. Diane had tracked her down afterward, shown up at her office with coffee, and refused to leave until Victoria admitted she was falling apart. They'd been friends ever since. "So let me get this straight," Diane said, cutting her omelet with surgical precision. "Your janitor lost a child, your daughters adore him, and you're investigating him like he's a corporate spy. I needed to know who he was. You needed to know if he was safe. Different thing entirely." Victoria stared at her coffee. "He's been better for them than all the therapists combined." Diane set down her fork. "And how does that make you feel? Like a failure?" The older woman leaned back in her chair, studied Victoria with eyes that had seen too much to be fooled by armor. "Victoria, honey, you are many things. Stubborn, controlling, absolutely terrible at asking for help, but you are not a failure. My daughters prefer the janitor over me. Your daughters prefer someone who is emotionally available." Diane's voice softened. "That's not a failure of love. That's a failure of time. You've been surviving. He's been healing. Different jobs." Victoria felt something crack in her chest. "What if I don't know how to do what he does? Then learn. What if it's too late?" Diane reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. "It's never too late to show up, but you have to actually show up. Not just physically, emotionally. You have to let them see you're human, that you're scared too, that you miss Michael too. Kids don't need perfect mothers. They need present ones." Victoria's eyes stung. "When did you get so wise?" Diane smiled sadly. "Honey, I've buried 2 marriages and 1 child. Wisdom is just scar tissue that learned to talk." The words landed like stones. Victoria hadn't known about the child. "You never told me." Diane shrugged. "Some grief you carry quiet. But I'll tell you this. The years I spent running from that pain, wasted. The years I spent learning to sit with it, that's when I started living again." She squeezed Victoria's hand. "That janitor of yours, he's not replacing you. He's showing you what's possible. The question is whether you're brave enough to learn." The following Monday, Victoria's phone exploded with notifications. Headlines screamed across every gossip site and tabloid feed. Sterling CEO's shocking secret. Janitor playing daddy to billionaire's orphans. The photos were everywhere. Nathan at the grocery store with the girls. Nathan kneeling to tie Sophie's shoes. Nathan carrying Chloe on his shoulders while the others reached for him. The images were innocent. The captions made them sinister. Inappropriate relationship. Where's the mother? Staff oversteps boundaries at Sterling Estate. Victoria's hands shook as she scrolled through the comments. Rich people are so disconnected, they let the help raise their kids. That man is clearly grooming those children. She should be investigated. Her phone rang. Patricia Sterling, Michael's younger sister. "We need to talk. Family meeting, today." The family meeting was brutal. Patricia and Richard Sterling sat across from Victoria in her own living room like judges at a tribunal. "This is unacceptable," Patricia said, her voice wrapped in false concern. "Michael's children being raised by a janitor? He's not raising them. He's helping. The optics are disastrous. The Sterling name is being dragged through tabloids. I don't care about optics. I care about my daughter's well-being." Richard leaned forward, voice quiet and dangerous. "Victoria, the custody agreement is clear. If you are deemed unfit, if there's any suggestion of an unstable home environment, we have grounds to petition for guardianship." Victoria's blood ran cold. "You would take my children?" Patricia's expression didn't soften. "We would protect Michael's children. There's a difference." But Victoria saw something else in Patricia's eyes, something that looked almost like grief. She lost her brother too, and she's never forgiven me for surviving. 3 days later, two officials arrived at the Sterling estate. They wore professional smiles and carried clipboards. Ms. Sterling, we're from Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report regarding the safety of your children. Victoria's heart stopped. Anonymous report. Patricia. The CPS investigation lasted 2 hours. 2 hours of strangers walking through her home, opening closets, checking smoke detectors, asking questions that felt like accusations wrapped in professional concern. The female worker focused on Victoria. Miss Sterling, can you describe your typical daily schedule? I work. I come home for dinner when I can. The girls have a nanny during the day, and Mr. Brooks assists with activities in the evenings. And how often would you say you're present for bedtime? Victoria hesitated. 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes less. The worker wrote something down. The male worker cornered Nathan in the hallway. Mr. Brooks, can you describe the nature of your relationship with the Sterling children? Nathan's voice was steady, but Victoria could see his hands trembling. I'm an employee. I clean. I do maintenance. And yes, I spend time with the girls. They seem lonely. I know what lonely looks like. The worker tilted his head. You lost a daughter yourself, correct? Nathan went still. How do you know that? We do thorough background checks when children are involved. The worker's tone remained neutral, but something sharp lurked beneath it. Some might say a man who lost his own child, seeking out close relationships with other people's children, is concerning. Victoria stepped forward. That's enough. Miss Sterling, we're just trying to understand the situation. What you're trying to do is turn grief into guilt. She felt her voice rising, but couldn't stop it. This man has done nothing but help my daughters heal. If caring about children who remind him of what he lost is a crime, then half the teachers and pediatricians in this country should be investigated. The workers exchanged glances. We're not accusing anyone of anything, the female worker said carefully. We're simply documenting. Then document this. Victoria's voice turned to steel. My daughters were silent for 3 years. 3 years of specialists and therapies that accomplished nothing. Nathan Brooks gave them their voices back. And if your report doesn't include that fact, I will make sure every news outlet in this country knows exactly how CPS treats grieving families. The workers left 20 minutes later. Their report would be filed. Their concerns would be noted. But Victoria had drawn a line, and she wasn't backing down. After they left, little Chloe tugged Victoria's sleeve. Mommy, are those people going to take Mr. Nathan away? Victoria knelt to her daughter's level. No, sweetheart. But Chloe's eyes were old with understanding. They looked at him like he was bad. He's not bad, Mommy. He's the best. That night, while sorting through old boxes looking for character references, Victoria found something unexpected. A letter, Michael's handwriting, addressed to her but never sent. Dated 1 week before his death. My darling Victoria, I've been trying to find the right time to tell you this, but there never seems to be one. Work has been my escape for years. I know you've noticed. What you don't know is why. I've been terrified of being a father. Terrified I'd fail them the way my father failed me. Terrified they'd look at me someday and see all the ways I couldn't be enough. You're so natural with them, so present. I watch you with Sophie and Mia and Grace and Chloe, and I feel like an outsider in my own family. So I work, I travel, I tell myself it's for them. But really it's because staying feels too hard. I'm going to try to change, starting tonight, starting with bedtime. All my love, forever. Michael. Victoria read the letter 3 times. Her hands shook. All these years, she believed Michael was the perfect father, the one who rushed home for bedtime, the one who died because he loved his daughters too much. But he was just as lost as she was now. He was trying to learn how to be present. He was trying to change, and he died before he could. She sobbed into the letter. not for the man she lost, but for the man she never fully knew, for the lies she'd been telling herself about her own failure, for the grace she never gave herself because she thought she could never measure up to a ghost. You weren't perfect either, Michael, she whispered, and I loved you anyway. Maybe it's time I love myself the same way. The next morning, Victoria received an email that shattered her. Subject, admission hold, Sterling Children. From Whitmore Academy Admissions. Due to recent concerns circulating regarding the home environment, we believe it is in the best interest of all parties to delay admission pending further review. Her daughters, rejected, because of photographs and rumors and a world that would rather judge than understand. She found Nathan in the guest quarters, packing a suitcase. What are you doing? He didn't look up. I'm leaving. Before I cause more damage. You're not causing damage. Your children just lost their school placement. CPS investigated your home. Your own family is threatening custody. He finally faced her. Every single one of those things is because of me. No, it's because of people who don't understand. People will never understand, Victoria. His voice broke. A man like me, no degree, no pedigree, no right to be this close to children who aren't his. The world will always see danger first. I won't let my presence destroy what you've built. Victoria stepped closer. You think leaving protects us, but it doesn't. It breaks us. It breaks them. They'll recover. They won't. Her voice rose. Nathan, they've already lost one father. If you walk out that door, you're teaching them that everyone who loves them eventually leaves. Is that the lesson you want them to learn? He flinched. Don't do that. Don't do what? Tell the truth? She was crying now, and she didn't care. My daughters finally laugh again. They finally trust someone, and you want to take that away because you're scared? I'm not scared for myself. I'm scared for you. Then stop. Stop being scared. Start being here. The silence stretched. Victoria, he said slowly, I can't be their father. I can't replace Michael. I'm not asking you to replace anyone. She stepped closer. So close she could see the pain etched into every line of his face. I'm asking you to stay, to be present, to help me learn how to do what you do. Because I've forgotten how to love without fear. And I think you're the only one who can remind me. Before Nathan could respond, Victoria's phone rang. The chairman of Sterling Dynamics Board, Victoria. The institutional investors are meeting tomorrow. The tabloid coverage, the CPS investigation, the family drama, it's affecting stock prices. Several board members are calling for a leadership review. A leadership review? I'm going to be direct. Some people are saying you've lost focus, that your personal life has become a liability. If you want to keep your position, you need to make a choice. Victoria looked at Nathan, at the suitcase, at the pink clock sitting on the nightstand. What kind of choice? Distance yourself from the controversy, publicly. The janitor needs to go, and you need to be seen prioritizing the company. Victoria's hand tightened on the phone. And if I refuse, then the board will have to consider whether Sterling Dynamics needs different leadership. The line went dead. Nathan watched her carefully. What did they say? Victoria's throat tightened. $47 billion. An empire she'd built with her bare hands. The legacy she'd promised Michael she would protect. Or the man who taught her daughters how to laugh again. Victoria didn't sleep that night. She paced her office until dawn, playing scenarios in her head. Every option felt like loss. At 7 in the morning, she made a call. Not to the board, to a journalist. I want to give a statement on camera today. The interview aired that evening on a major network. Victoria sat under studio lights, composed but visibly emotional. I'm here to address the rumors about my household, she began. But more than that, I'm here to tell the truth about something I've been hiding for 3 years, my own failure. The host leaned forward. What do you mean? When my husband died, I handled it the way I handle everything, by working harder, by pushing through, by telling myself that my daughters would be fine if I just kept the empire running. She paused. They weren't fine. They stopped talking. They stopped laughing. They became ghosts in their own home. And I was so busy surviving that I didn't notice they were suffocating. And Nathan Brooks? Nathan is a man who lost his own daughter to a heart condition. He understands grief in a way most people never will. And when he came into our home, he didn't try to fix my daughters. He just showed up, day after day. He listened. He remembered. He played with them without expecting anything in return. Victoria looked directly into the camera. My daughters laugh now. They speak in full sentences. They reach for people instead of pulling away. And that is because of Nathan Brooks, a janitor with no fancy degree, no social pedigree, and more emotional intelligence than anyone I've ever met. So what do you say to the critics? The people questioning his presence in your home? Victoria's voice steadied. I say this. If the world has a problem with a grieving father who helped 4 motherless girls find their voices again, then the world has a problem with me, and I will not apologize for protecting the people who saved my family. The interview went viral. Support flooded in from single mothers, widows, working parents, people who'd been judged for unconventional families. But the board made their move anyway. The call came the next morning. You forced our hand, Victoria. The vote was 7-4. We're asking you to step down as CEO. Victoria held the phone, watching her daughters play in the garden through the window. Nathan was with them. Sophie sat on his lap. Mia braided flowers into his hair. Grace and Chloe argued about whose turn it was to be the dragon. I understand, she said quietly. You're taking this well. I'm taking it honestly. I built Sterling Dynamics from nothing. I can build something else. But I cannot rebuild my daughter's childhood. I cannot get back the years I lost to fear. And I will not lose one more day to people who value stock prices over human beings. She hung up. For the first time in 3 years, she felt free. Nathan had left that morning, before the interview aired, before Victoria made her choice. He didn't want to watch her sacrifice everything for him. He sat in a bus terminal in New Jersey, duffel bag at his feet, staring at a departure board he couldn't bring himself to read. The station television played news loops. Then Victoria's face filled the screen. Her voice carried through the terminal. If the world has a problem with the man who gave my daughters their laughter back, then the world has a problem with me. Nathan's breath caught. An elderly woman beside him wiped her eyes. That's beautiful. Someone should hold on to love like that. Nathan stared at the screen, at Victoria, at the woman who had just burned down her empire to defend a janitor she'd barely known a year ago. He stood, grabbed his bag. Where are you going? The woman asked. Home, he said. I think I finally know where that is. 6 months later, the ribbon-cutting ceremony was modest compared to Sterling Dynamics events. No champagne fountains or celebrity guests, just families, social workers, doctors, and a handmade banner painted by 4 little girls, Rose and Michael House, where families heal together. The center provided housing for parents whose children were undergoing long-term medical treatment, a place where families didn't have to choose between being present and paying rent. Victoria spoke briefly. Nathan spoke even more briefly. He still hated public attention. But the moment that mattered happened afterward, when the cameras stopped rolling. Sophie tugged Victoria's hand. Mommy, look. In the center's garden, a new rose bush had been planted. The plaque read, For Rose Brooks and Michael Sterling. You taught us that love doesn't end. It just learns to grow in new directions. Victoria knelt beside her daughters, pulling them close. Nathan joined them, and for a moment, they were just a family. Imperfect, unconventional, scarred by loss, but finally whole. That night, the Sterling house was warm with noise. Not the polished silence of grief, but the messy chaos of life returning. Nathan sat on the edge of the girl's bed, the pink clock in his hand. It chimed softly. 7 o'clock. Story time. Once upon a time, he began, there was a house that forgot how to laugh. The girls listened, rapt. But then 4 brave little girls decided to teach it again, and they found helpers along the way. Some expected, some not. And eventually, even the saddest rooms filled up with light. Is that a true story? Chloe whispered. The truest kind, Nathan said. The kind that's still being written. Victoria watched from the doorway. Nathan caught her eye and smiled, soft, tentative, full of promise. Later, after the girls fell asleep, Victoria and Nathan sat on the porch, watching fireflies blink across the lawn. I got a call today, Victoria said. Nathan tensed. And? The new board chair. They want me back. Advisory role, part-time, flexible hours. What did you say? Victoria looked at the house, at the lights in her daughter's windows, at the man beside her who had lost everything and somehow found a way to give it all back. I said I'd think about it. After summer, after the girls start school, after we figure out whatever this is becoming. Nathan reached for her hand. She let him take it. Whatever this is, he echoed. I like the sound of that. The fireflies danced. The house breathed. And somewhere inside, 4 little girls dreamed of elephants and magic and a world where broken things don't stay broken forever. They just learn to grow in new directions.